Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsessions
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, it's Jackie Cation, and you are listening to The Dork Forest. The website's JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com if you like a determiner. Let's do the credits. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio and video. Vilmos works on JackieCation.com, and Mike Ruekberg sang the song with his wife, Sarah. He composed it, and he will sing his version of the Mexican hat dance at the end of this show. Thank you so much for listening to The Dork Forest. Here's a scoop. I'm doing stand-up online. A lot of Zoom shows will eventually go back on the road. Sign up for my email list. It's easy to get off. It's harder to get on than it is to get off. And no harm, no foul. If ever bored, JackieCation.com, sign up for the email list. You'll find out about my weekly Zoom shows and stand up on the road eventually. You may donate to the show if you would like. I would like. Sure, I would. There's PayPal, Jackie at JackieCation.com, and there is a PayPal button on both DorkForest.com and JackieCation.com. And there's Venmo, if you like Venmo, Jackie-Cation, oddly enough. If you have listened to all of the shows, go to dorkforest.bandcamp.com, I think. The Dork Forest has a Bandcamp page. You can listen to a lot of ones that are free from pre-2009 when I started pre-recording. And then there's live episodes that cost me a couple of bucks, so I charge you a couple of bucks. There's also some stand-up. There's a story album that's very exciting there. And other than that, I have a lot of merch in my garage. Feel free to order if you know anybody who doesn't have any CDs or the DVD. And you can follow me everywhere at Jackie Cation. Let's get into the show. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I'm in my living room. I'm not. I continue to say it. I'm in my, essentially the tiny room, the nice tiny room next to my garage. So I'm in my garage, you guys. And I'm with David Rees. Now, did I pronounce it right? I forgot to check.
Nailed it. First try.
David Rees, ladies and gentlemen, creator and co-creator of a Hulu show called Dicktown, and has a podcast called Election Profit Makers. Gee, I wonder what that's about. You guys, David Rees is in the Dork Forest, and it's very exciting. And you have a dorkdom that I've never had before, which is effects pedals.
Oh, no one's ever done that before?
No, I only know about them because they're for sale in Animal Crossing at the store. If you wish to purchase a set of effects pedals, you can.
Oh my God. Okay, well that's good. That feels like a moment of cultural breakthrough for effects pedals.
Do you feel seen? Do you feel seen?
Yes, they held space for effects pedals in Animal Crossing. I'm very grateful for that.
Are they exactly what they sound like? They can do sound effects, but you press a pedal?
Well, if you're not familiar with them, I would love, before I tell you what they are, I would love to know what you think they are. Do you have any associations with these devices?
No, it sounds like I don't know if it's an electric guitar thing or if it looks like it might be. Looks like it might be. Or if it be like a sound effects thing, like you could do any effects from the pedals.
Oh, I see. Okay. Your first guess is a little bit closer, although with the advent of digital technology, your second guess is not as far afield as it would have been 40 or 50 years ago.
Could have been possible, right?
It's possible now to have a pedal that will make just about any sound. So yeah, effects pedals or guitar stomp box effects are little devices that change the tone of your instrument.
Okay.
They're most commonly used with guitar. So like a wah-wah pedal is an iconic effects pedal.
Okay.
Or a fuzz pedal is an iconic effects pedal. But there are pedals that do all sorts of things. You can add reverb to your guitar. You can add echo to your guitar.
Oh.
You can have the pedal actually slice up your guitar signal and spit it out back at you randomly. This is electric.
This is, have they always been, like, since electric guitars, Like,
Mhm.
was the first one, was it just sort of interrupting? Is it interrupting what's coming from a guitar going out of the speaker?
Yes, they are play. Now we get to talk about signal chain. This is wonderful. It's already the best podcast I've ever been on.
Yes.
So
Finally.
the typical use of a stomp box effects pedal is this. You have your guitar, you have a cable running out of your guitar into one or more stomp box effects. And then from
Okay.
there it goes into your amp and is amplified and then fills the rock club with wonderful music, right?
Joy.
Joy.
Yes.
And if you're a serious stomp box effects person, or if your band or your music requires a lot of effects, you'll have something called a pedal board, which is a huge portable kind of like platform where all your pedals are laid out. You know, because some people will have like up to 10 or 15 or 20 pedals on their pedal board.
Okay.
If they're going to play something really trippy, maybe they need reverb, and maybe they need reverse delay, and maybe they need, something that simultaneously plays an octave above and below whatever note they're playing. And then
And
maybe
is
they add some fuzz,
right. And is each pedal in the pedal board an effect pedal? Essentially?
Effects pedal is a generic term for these types of devices that change a guitar tone.
Got it.
But
I'm caught up.
some effects pedals are more extreme than others, right?
Right.
Some
That
of them
makes-
really do classify as like sound effects, right? Special sound effects, like really, really trippy stuff.
Okay. So you're playing your guitar
Playing
you-
playing the guitar, yep.
and you want it to have reverb or be fuzzy.
Yeah, like let's think of some famous examples of. Do you know the band Heart?
I am familiar with the band Heart.
Do you know a song by the band Heart that's called Barracuda?
Yes.
Barracuda.
Yes, I do.
Barracuda has a very distinctive guitar sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a whooshing sound.
Okay.
That's a flanger. That's a flanger effect,
Okay.
which is I think a moving envelope filter that changes the tone of the signal and gives you that kind of whooshing sound. That's an iconic effects pedal.
Okay.
So
All
if
right.
if I'm in a Heart cover band and it's time to play Barracuda, maybe I haven't used my flanger pedal yet throughout the night because maybe it hasn't been called for. But when we do Barracuda, we have to nail it, or the bride and the groom at this wedding are going to be really pissed off.
Because it has to have that whoosh sound.
Yeah, it has to have that iconic whooshing sound. So I tap a button on the effects pedal, which turns on the effects pedal, and now my guitar signal, which is running through that pedal, now has the whooshing sound. Because
Okay.
the tone has been processed by this little device.
So a guitar itself, even an electric guitar. I'm sorry, we're going to have to back up and talk briefly about
You want to
guitars.
talk about what guitars are?
Kind of.
All right, we can do that.
There are two other guitar episodes, Dave Hill and Fred
Oh, yeah.
Armisen.
Well, Dave
So-
Hill, I know, is a big effects pedal guy.
Okay.
He has
I-
pedal company sponsorships that I'm extremely envious of. But
Oh, does he have pedal?
We can save that for the spin-off podcast, Dark Forest, where I talk about all my dark resentments of other people.
We're going to be talking about pedal sponsorship and what the hell that means later. But let me ask this question first, which is, when a guitar is played and it's acoustic, it's strings over a box, and the box, the guitar sounds like whatever it sounds like because of the strings over the box.
That's correct.
When an electric guitar, how is this noise being made?
You sound like my mom back when I was in high school in the basement. How is this noise being made?
That feels sweeping and judgmental. I'm so
Right.
sorry, David.
That's fine. Electric guitars have pickups. Pickups are devices that pick up the electric signal of vibrating string. I mean, I actually have no interest in guitars. I only like guitar pedals, so I'm not really sure how electric guitars work. The pickups are like tightly coiled wires that respond to the strings the electric strings on the guitar vibrating.
And that's why they sound the way they do.
That's why they sound the way they do. And that can be a function not only of the type of pickups you have or the weight of the strings you're using, but also the wood that is in the guitar or the shape of the guitar or whether the guitar is a solid body or a hollow body guitar. There's a lot of things that can influence the electric guitar sound.
Just like it would with an acoustic guitar.
Exactly, just like it would with an acoustic guitar. And then with an electric guitar, you have another vital component, which is an amplifier. And amplifiers obviously can color the sound in very distinctive ways. There's certain amps that have, very distinct iconic sounds.
Okay.
And actually there are now some pedals. If you can't afford a collectible old Vox or Fender amp, now maybe for a fraction of the price, you can buy a pedal that will recreate some of the tonal qualities of that amplifier.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can have that amp on kind of a budget. Yeah. So that's a whole other world of effects pedals.
That's actually very egalitarian, and I approve of that. That's lovely.
Yeah.
So the effects pedals, like you get your pedal board, you have, what's a standard pedal board effects pedal? Like 3 or 4 pedals?
Okay, well let's start with. All right, let's build you a board. This is fun. This is great. I'll be your personal shopper.
Yes, please.
What kind of music do you want to play with your electric guitar?
With my electric guitar, I would like to play. I enjoy. You know what? Let's play the song "Beth" by Kiss. It's a ballad.
Okay.
I don't know that there are any. I'm trying to pick a famous song that is.
Wait, hold on. That's a piano song, isn't it?
Maybe. Music.
Right? Oh, Beth, what can I do? I feel like that's a piano song.
How about Styx? You got anything by Styx?
Sure. Why don't we do "Come Sail Away" by Styx?
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the guitar tone on that song, but let's assume you have a standard electric guitar and a standard amplifier.
Okay.
And what you want is a really bright, cutting guitar tone. So I'm asking in advance for any forgiveness from Styx aficionados because in case I get this slightly wrong. At the very least, we're going to get you an overdrive pedal, which is going to boost your signal and recreate the sound of an amplifier being overdriven, which is to say the waveforms will be clipped.
Okay.
Which can have a nice kind of harmonic quality to it.
Okay.
Kind of like the classic rock and roll distorted guitar sound, right?
Okay.
Overdrive. Distortion is technically a different family of pedals, but we'll start you off with a nice overdrive pedal, and let's assume that your amplifier doesn't have reverb on it.
Okay.
In that case, we will probably also want a reverb pedal so that your guitar sits kind of in front of the mix and has a little more body to it.
Okay. Does that offer depth? Is that what the reverb does? Kind of gives you depth?
Space. Yeah, space, right? And reverb pedals now, in the digital era, you have reverb pedals where it says, do you want it to sound like you're in a tiled bathroom? Do you want it to sound like you're in a cathedral? Do you want it to sound like you're in a cave? Do you want it to sound like it's an old spring reverb? Like original reverb in a lot of old guitar amps was just a couple of springs with transistors attached to them. And that gives you that iconic twangy, like surf rock spring reverb.
That's what I think of when I think reverb. So, okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or maybe you want to recreate a plate reverb, which was an old studio technique where they would have massive metal plates that kind of shimmered in isolated rooms and affected. They were used a lot in vocals. Yeah.
Okay.
Like a really rich, kind of dark reverb. So we're definitely going to give you a reverb pedal, and probably a distortion pedal too, in addition to the overdrive pedal.
Okay.
Just to be safe in case you want some crunch or you want the lead to cut even more. And I feel like that will do it if you're in a Styx band.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll be. What's that? 3 pedals? You don't need a pedal board for that.
You won't.
No, because you can just throw those in a box and walk out of the club when you're done.
Okay, so so you're hooking up the pedals. Are they literally just sort of something you tap with your foot that you put next to the amp if there's only 2 or 3 of them?
Yeah, I'm going to go get one for you, okay?
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay, please do. While let's revisit the fact that David Rees, who is, by the way, has a podcast called Election Profit Makers and also a TV show on Hulu called Dicktown, doesn't know how little I know about music. That's it. That's what it is.
Now this one is a little unusual because I've modified it, and you can see that I've added my own extra buttons here.
Okay, yeah. Tell me what that.
But overall, the shape and the size of this is fairly typical.
Okay,
So
it's about the
this is-
size of your hand.
Yep.
And it's got 3 knobs on it.
A lot of pedals have between 2 and 5 knobs. But again, older pedals can be really huge and boxy.
Right.
And then some new digital pedals are basically like tiny little synthesizers, and they'll have a million knobs on them. But when you think of a standard kind of just iconic effects pedal, it's about this size.
Okay.
Hand size. Yep.
Give me a tour of that pedal box, if you would.
Wow. All right. So this is a cheap delay pedal that I bought in order to modify it.
Right.
Because I like modifying electronic instruments. And I don't want to modify anything expensive or collectible because there's a non-negligible chance that I'll destroy it accidentally.
Right, and there's no reason. There's no reason to you might if you're going to play with something like this is what happens with people who modify action figures.
Yeah.
They buy sort of the cheap action figure and then it's fine.
And then they soup it up.
Yep. So you've souped up just a regular pedal box.
This is a cheap Arion brand delay, stereo delay pedal that I think I paid $30 for.
Okay.
What I did was I opened it up and exposed the circuit board and just started poking around with a wire while the pedal was engaged.
Okay.
To see if I could make any interesting sounds. This is called circuit bending. People do it with like old Speak and Spells and old Casio keyboards and stuff.
Okay. Circuit bending.
And people do it with pedals.
Right.
And so I opened this up and found some bend points where when I connect, I jumped the circuit. I literally shorted the circuit because I created a new route for the signal to go through.
Right.
It would like make like a crazy. See, I make a lot of like, I guess you would just say like noisy, non-musical music. So like, screeching sounds are a plus for me. They wouldn't work in your Styx cover band necessarily.
No.
But if you can get like a crazy overdriven screeching sound, I'm into it.
Okay.
So like, and then this is not an actual button that you engage. This is just a metal screw. Because when you touch this screw, your own body acts as a resistor and it bends the pitch of the delayed signal.
Okay.
So if your guitar goes dung and then the pedal goes dung, 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 when you touch this, it'll go dung, 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 like that.
Oh, okay.
It's the pitch because you've changed the resistance. So that's an example of a.
And are the knobs affecting how much gain?
Yeah.
Is it gain?
Okay, we're burning through this lesson. Gain is relevant on like an overdrive pedal. The overdrive pedal that you have, when you adjust the gain, you're adjusting the level of the signal.
Okay.
On this pedal, this is a delay pedal. It does have 3 knobs. One of them is just the mix knob, which is how much of the effect do you actually want to hear? If I turn it all the way counterclockwise, you won't hear any of the effect.
Okay.
If I turn it, let's say to 12 o'clock noon, you'll hear an even mix of your unaffected guitar and the delay that the pedal's producing. If you
That's
turn it
cool.
all the way up, you'll get nothing but delay. You won't hear your original signal. You'll just hear the repeats.
Okay.
The second knob here is the depth of the delay, which I think in the case of this pedal, so delay pedals have 2 components. They have what you would call like the buffer size, which is how long does the pedal wait before it starts repeating what you're playing? So let's say that the original thing you're going to play is donk donk. If I have my delay pedal very quick, if I have the knob set for a very short delay, it's going to go donk 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 donk. If I have it set for a long delay, it might go donk 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 donk.
Oh.
Right? You're kind of adjusting the distance that you are from the other mountain on the other side of the canyon before things start flying back at you. Do you know what I mean?
I think I just had a tiny epiphany here about what an effects pedal is.
I love this.
Yeah. So, the tension. Let's build some. Here's what I think. Mike Furman
is a master of the looper of the.
Is that different?
Pedal.
Or is it a version of an effects pedal?
A looper is an effects pedal.
Okay.
And they're all different. I have what is probably the simplest looper you can buy, which is made by TC Electronic, which is 1 knob and 1 button.
Okay.
And you can play a musical phrase into it and record it, and then it'll just play it back forever until you stop playing it. Now, what Furman does, the times that I've seen Furman, he's using multiple loops. He's layering loops. It's also what Reggie Watts does.
Yes.
And those guys have much more sophisticated looper pedals where you can have multiple loops playing simultaneously of different durations.
Right.
You can turn them on and off independently of each other.
Wow. But they are totally, effects pedals.
Absolutely. Yeah, loopers are effects pedals.
Okay.
We welcome them with open arms.
The effect pedal community says yay to you, looper owners and lovers.
And honestly, I was thinking about this, over the past year and few months, I bet looper pedals actually had a boost in sales because so many musicians were stuck at home during quarantine and couldn't practice with bandmates.
Oh, right.
And the great thing about looping pedals is that you can accompany yourself. Let's say you lay down a chord progression on a looping pedal and just keep playing that chord progression over and over again. Now you have a rhythm guitarist who will never mess up, and you can practice your solos over that loop.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. So that's the second button. What's the third knob?
Third knob is repeat. And that is, now that let's say that with our second button, we've decided how long the pedal waits before it starts repeating the delay. Now the third one tells us how long will that delay continue before it fades out.
Okay.
Maybe it only does it once and then it disappears. Or you can have it go for so long that it does this thing called self-oscillation, which is when it starts, it's going so long that it starts feeding back on itself and it starts getting louder and louder and louder and builds to this massive noise crescendo.
Wow.
And if you can learn to control that, that's a really dramatic effect.
It sounds it. So if it's just going to repeat, are you setting it by minute? Are you setting it by beats? Are you setting it?
No. So an old delay pedal like this probably can't repeat for more than a second or so. I mean, a lot of these things are measured in milliseconds.
Oh, okay.
Now a digital delay pedal, some of those have really super long buffers, and maybe it can sort of remember and start spitting out things that are a couple seconds long, maybe even longer. And looper pedals, like even my cheap looper pedal, I think can hold like 6 or 12 minutes.
Oh,
make
wow.
A 6 or 12 minute loop, before you start playing it back.
Holy
It really
smokes.
depends on with delay pedals especially, there was a huge jump in flexibility once things transitioned from analog technology to digital technology. And now with digital delays can do things that analog delays could never do. Like they can add harmonics to the delay. They can slice the delay up, like I said, and spit it back to you. That's called a granular delay. Those are very popular right now.
Like the electric guitar was invented in the 50s, right? With electricity, which was not
Thomas
invented.
Edison, first he made the light bulb and then he said, now I need
Ben Franklin invented electricity and then guitars came. No, but I mean, what I'm trying to get is the history of the pedal.
Well, this is why this is so fortuitous. There is recently, within the last 2 weeks, we have been so blessed to be alive at the same time as this documentary called The Pedal Movie has just come out. This is the world's most comprehensive and longest documentary about stompbox effects pedals.
Okay.
It's almost 2.5 hours long.
Wow.
And the first third of it is actually a pretty good look into the history of effects pedals. And what's really interesting about the early days of effects pedals in the 50s and 60s is that a lot of these devices were made in order to capture the sound of broken audio equipment. So a musician would go into a studio and the mixing board that they were recording into would have like a broken, capacitor or transistor. Something wasn't working correctly, but it produced like a really cool distorted tone.
Okay.
And they would say, I want that sound all the time.
Okay.
And they would try to capture that sound in a portable device so that when they were in a live setting, they could recreate it.
Okay.
So a lot of early effects pedals are actually mimicking malfunctioning equipment, which I think is really cool.
That is really cool. Who first started in this documentary? I'm sure you were reminded of who invented the effects pedal or first marketed them.
I was reminded, but I can't remember because I was live streaming my commentary.
Oh,
And it all
okay.
went by in a huge blur as I watched it for the first time. I did that for
What platform is the pedal movie on? Is it on Hulu?
you can
Or
rent
your
it on
TV show?
iTunes. You can rent it on iTunes, or you can rent it on Google. I think Google Play.
Okay. Um.
It's extremely dorky. I just want to.
Oh, there's no need to warn anyone listening to this program.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to run
dorky.
out and check it
There's
out.
a whole section on the use of online message boards in the mid '90s to spur pedal innovations. Even I was like, "Does this really need to be in this documentary?" Just static shots of people scrolling through Usenet groups. It was pretty incredible, I have to say. But yeah,
And yet you enjoyed every moment of it because
I enjoyed most moments of it. Yeah, I was feeling a little lightheaded by the end of it.
What is there? Okay, let's talk about pedal sponsorship. Why would, I mean, it has to be sort of, if you could talk like a pedal manufacturer into, I'm going to use your pedals, so I should be your sponsorship. How many people are making pedals? Are there as many as are making guitars?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Are there as many pedal manufacturers as there are guitar manufacturers? I don't know, but I will say this. There are, the last, I guess, 10 years, we've seen a huge explosion in what are known as boutique pedal makers. These are people who basically hand assemble pedals of their own design. Or really small. You know, it's like artisanal stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Artisanal pedal makers. Maybe it's just literally one person in their garage, or maybe it's a small team of 5 to 10 people.
They're going back to the land, David.
They're going back to the land, exactly. I mean, we have these famous pedals that are mass produced by companies like Boss and Ibanez, and those two manufacturers especially have made some of the most iconic and widely used pedals. But in addition to that, we now have these more experimental, high-end boutique pedal makers, and that has really exploded in relatively recently. And then we have pedal makers that kind of, in my mind, straddle the line between mass production and boutique. So like Earthquaker Devices is a pedal maker from Akron, Ohio. Dave Hill is always on Instagram showing off some new Earthquaker Devices pedal that he probably got for free because he's a really good guitar player and he's a good brand ambassador. And I'm sitting at home in my sweatpants with all my jankety ass home modified pedals, just wishing I could get a taste of that Earthquaker pedal. So there's a little, but then again, like, Dave can play guitar. I can't really play guitar, you know, like, I'm just kind of more into the pedals as the source of the sound rather than modifying a well-played guitar. You know what I mean?
You would be perfect sponsorship because you are a pedal player. That is your sound. That is your music and your pitch. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I should get into.
So
self-marketing as a pedal player.
It's now the iconic pedals that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
How is that defined? Are these the sort of the reverb, the distortion, the fuzzy?
Well, let's talk about some very specific models of pedals and why they are so famous.
Yes, please.
One of the most famous pedals is something called the Ibanez Tube Screamer, which is, I guess, a kind of overdrive pedal. They're very recognizable. It's a green pedal. It's had a lot of iterations over the years, but the original version of it, which is called, I think, the TS-808, which has a very specific chip in its circuit board.
Okay.
Those go for thousands of dollars now. And one of the reasons they're super famous is that it was Stevie Ray Vaughan's signature pedal. And it's what gave him that kind of amazing, creamy, overdriven guitar tone that works really well with blues.
Right? Okay.
Blues music, yeah. So the Ibanez Tube Screamer is an iconic collectible pedal.
Okay.
Another pedal, and this actually came up in the pedal documentary, and I was happy to see it because it's such a funny story. There's another overdrive pedal called the Klon Centaur. This was a pedal that was made in the mid-90s, I think, by a guy. It instantly became legendary because it kind of boosts the signal, but they say it's quote unquote transparent, which means it doesn't really affect the tone. This is not the type of pedal I'm into because it's a little too subtle for me. This is like a pedal for a musician.
Okay.
And I'm more of just like a bleep bloop scrock guy.
You're a pedal guy.
Right.
It's all about the pedal. Yeah.
But this Klon Centaur, these now go for like $5,000 to $8,000 on the secondhand market.
What? And they're the same size as the one that you've modded?
They're bigger. They're
They're
boxier.
bigger. Okay.
Yep. And this pedal it took a long time for people to figure out how to recreate this pedal because the manufacturer, it was just one guy. I think his name is Don something. I can't remember. I know.
It isn't Klon Centaur?
Screaming at me right now. Yeah, the Klon Centaur.
I want his name to be Klon Centaur.
He did something called, he gooped it, which means that in order to obscure his trade secrets, he covered the circuit board and all the components in a kind of black goo so that you couldn't look at the board and be like, okay, I know it's that brand transistor running into this type of chip, and then there's also this type of capacitor. I can recreate this on my own. I'll just buy the parts and assemble it myself. It's like Coke's secret recipe.
Yes, he literally covered it. He painted over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
That's another super iconic collectible pedal now. First of all, that's genius because you took yours apart. If you know what all those components look like, you should be able to duplicate that sound. So right. And there's a whole other sidebar about pedals that we haven't even gotten into, which is called build your own clone. And this is where let's say that you can't afford a real tube screamer.
Okay.
But online you have found a schematic for a circuit board and a list of components that should get you close enough.
Right.
So you either buy those components individually from electronics parts stores, or, there's a website that is literally called Build Your Own Clone. They send you everything. They send you all the components in a bag. They send you the circuit board. They send you the box with all the holes drilled. They send you the knobs.
Oh, wow.
And then they send you the instructions, and you just put it all together and solder it together yourself. And then you have what's known as a clone. So let's say I built an Ibanez tube screamer clone.
Right.
And maybe I built it for, half or a fraction of the cost if I had actually bought a tube screamer.
Right, because a tube screener itself is when you told me that the one that you had modded was $30, I knew that we're talking about things that can be relatively expensive. This is not a super cheap hobby, playing an electric guitar and having pedals, and this is a commitment. Yeah.
Most pedals are still cheaper than most electric guitars and most amplifiers.
Mm-hmm.
Collectible pedals can run thousands of dollars, and even some of these new boutique pedal makers will charge between like $300 and $500 for a new pedal.
Okay, so
I've never paid that much. That just feels like too much money to spend on a pedal. I don't know.
Right. Right.
$500.
$500. But what about the sound that you would get out of it? Would it be worth $500?
I mean, this is what I deal with, right? Because if I was a working guitarist,
yes,
and with a high level of musicality and a very, very, very specific idea for the tone that I wanted, then it makes sense as an investment. But I'm a guy who's just making really abrasive noises and sounds.
And so you don't need a specific sound?
Yeah, it's kind of like, let me buy this old piece of shit and see what it sounds like. That's kind of my attitude towards all this stuff.
I love that. That's
I've always just been attracted to kind of like,
I don't know if I'm buying that album, but I definitely love that. That's what you want to do.
Go to my Bandcamp. I have an album up there, and you will hear davidreesrecords.bandcamp.com. I made a concept album about quarantine called "You Ain't Going Nowhere," and you'll hear all my cheap Casio keyboards and modified effects pedals and broken drum machines and stuff.
And it's just David Rees Records.
davidreesrecords.bandcamp.com. Yep.
Sure. It's everybody's all over Bandcamp, you guys. Dork Forest is on Bandcamp. There's a bunch of free episodes back when I was recording. You would have loved these episodes because they were essentially, it was reviewed from 2006, I believe, to 2009. I was doing it just over the internet.
Right,
So it's kind of has the sound quality of a conference call. And it was reviewed as like listening to a podcast that sounded like AM radio being held up to a telephone.
So that was a pedal. Nowadays, they probably build a super expensive pedal to get that effect.
Exactly. So go to Bandcamp, you guys, and check out all of the different things. That's what I do love about Bandcamp is that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And they have a platform that if you wanted to, you can make it look nice. So, okay, so those two iconic pedals and pedal makers, are there more that you could think of, or?
Yeah, I mean, the MXR phaser. We have to give a shout out to the classic MXR phaser,
Yes, please.
which I think was made famous. I think that's the one that Eddie Van Halen used on Eruption.
Okay.
The Crybaby Wah Wah, of course, the Wah Wah pedal just generically is an iconic sound.
Wait, what is that? What is that stick that's on a? I know it's not called that.
Theremin?
It's when you play the guitar. Sometimes there's like a little handle.
Oh, right, that's a whammy bar.
Okay, and that is different. That is not a pedal at all. Where you are not using your feet.
Interesting. Not technically a pedal, although it does affect the guitar tone because what it does is it. Let me see if I can get this right.
Yeah,
It
it's a whammy
adjusts.
bar.
It bends the bridge of the guitar, which shortens the length. It shortens the length of the strings, and it slackens the tension of the strings, so that when you bend the bar, the notes dip. And
Okay.
if you stretch out the bar, the notes get higher. It's basically a way to adjust the string tension on the fly.
Okay.
While
And
keeping the guitar in tune. Yep.
Right, because then when you release it, it goes back to its original.
It should go back to normal. Yeah.
Okay. So it sort of has the effect of a pedal, but it is obviously not.
Correct.
A little
Yep,
bit.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
It's about as close to an effects pedal as you can get without actually being an effects pedal. That's interesting. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. It's because I've seen pictures of many guitars, but I don't know anything about them. I never did try to play the guitar.
Why have you seen so many pictures of guitars?
For some reason, people are there's always showing some whatever that guy from Nirvana died. A lot of
Kurt
him.
Cobain?
Yeah, Kurt Cobain. Well, yeah,
He played guitar, right?
He played guitar. There's always a picture of him and his guitar.
Yep,
Or
right,
I'll
yep.
be listening to some music, and there will be someone using one of those whammy bars, and I was like, I wonder what that's called. Probably not called a stick that comes off the guitar.
I mean, it almost is. Bar, stick. You're close, yeah.
Sure. And so, what is there music that just uses the pedals besides yourself?
I'm so glad you asked this question because this was something that I was very intrigued to see about this pedal movie. The pedal movie, I will say, is very rock-centric. It really focuses on, and mostly indie rock, it mostly focuses on guys playing their guitar through a bunch of pedals.
Okay.
They did not really focus on what I consider to be the one genre of music that literally cannot be made without effects pedals, which is noise music. Most noise music is created exclusively or almost entirely by effects pedals, by distortion pedals, by overdrive pedals, by feeding pedals back into themselves, by creating sounds directly within the mixing board, just like feeding the mixing board into itself to feed back and then running that through pedals, or by doing something that a lot of people, including myself, do, which is you take a contact microphone and attach it to a surface of metal and then bang on it and run it through a million distortion pedals until it just sounds like explosions. But noise music, these noise musicians have been rocking pedals from day one, and they got no love in this pedal documentary. And I was kind of surprised to see that.
That is surprising because that is an actual genre of music.
Yeah.
Right? And
a very pedal-centric genre of music.
Right. And I believe one of my friends likes noise music a great deal. Okay. I don't know that for sure, so we will be speaking no names.
Look for the signs of your friend liking noise music. Why?
Right.
What makes you think that they like noise music, but you're not sure?
How much he hates Billy Joel? No, that's not true. But he does not enjoy Billy Joel.
Okay.
And which is kind of the opposite of noise music. But I will say that with I don't know a lot about noise music. Mm-hmm. I assume it is noisy. I assume that the definition of music means that there is some sort of pattern going on.
Okay. Keep
Or
going.
it has a
Yeah.
beginning, a middle, and an end, like a story. Is there lyrics in music, in noise music, or is it entirely
Well,
the sound?
we kind of have to get even dorkier now because now it depends on what subgenre of noise you're talking about.
Sure.
I don't noise music to me is kind of like drugs. It's just more fun to make it yourself than to listen to other people do it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
But let's take an iconic noise music album.
Oh,
This is
what
like
is-
if you just want to talk about noise music. There's an album by a Japanese artist named Merzbow. He's extremely prolific. He's made hundreds of albums over the years.
Okay.
He made this album called Pulse Demon. This is probably one of the most famous albums of noise music.
Okay.
Pulse Demon is extremely abrasive electronic sounds.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that this album is so infamous is that when they went to go master the album, right, they were done recording it, they were done mixing it, and now it was time to take it to the master, which is when they do like the final EQ touches and sequence everything, and then it gets, burnt onto a compact disc or turned into a record.
Right.
The legend is that when they went to the mastering facility, they told the mastering facility to make the level higher than you're supposed to. What this means is that if you have a iTunes shuffle going and you're listening to music and Pulse Demon comes on, it's incredibly loud.
Wow.
It's painfully loud relative to what you were just listening to. And I've learned this the hard way with headphones on a walk.
Oh,
And so you really have
that.
to be careful with this record because like a lot of noise music, it's extremely aggressive and it has this element of danger to it, right?
Well, in that case, there's definitely danger to your eardrums.
Absolutely. Yeah, my tinnitus is so fucking annoying right now. Yeah.
So, but tinnitus might actually add to the vibe, might add to the
Totally,
noise
because
music.
what is tinnitus? Tinnitus is kind of an abrasive, obnoxious.
It's a
ringing in your
natural
ears.
effects pedal.
You listen
that
to
your
enough
body-
noise music, eventually your brain will just start producing it again, and you can cut out the middleman.
Right.
Just listen to these drones.
So, if the pedal movie is leaning towards rock and essentially the use of effects pedals in sort of a lyrical narrative, right?
Yeah, right.
But noise music just uses it to create different sounds that is then called music.
Yeah.
I am slightly fascinated by how aggressive noise music is and what its purpose in releasing it. Like, because what you just said about how it's got to be more fun to just do it, it's sort of like working out, or it's a thing where
I mean, we have to keep in mind that we're speaking about a genre of music or sound art that does have a lot of different subgenres. There is some noise music that kind of gets, that blurs the line with like minimalism or drone music, right? And some noise music can be so thick and rich sonically that it is kind of relaxing. It's like a sound bath, right? Not all noise music is deliberately aggressive and provocative.
Got it.
Sonically violent.
Got it.
But that is kind of the when I think of noise music, tell me if this describes your friend. When I think of noise music, I think of a guy bent over a card table in a basement with a bunch of pedals. He's turning knobs and it's really super loud. And he's just hunched over this table for like 45 minutes going crazy, turning the knobs on and just creating like a total obnoxious squall of sound. Is that something your friend would be into?
Maybe. He is an artist and he is, I think has, I think everyone has unresolved rage. But I think his unresolved rage comes out in that music and helps. Like he
might be a noise artist.
He might be. He might have.
You have unresolved rage and a bunch of weird pedals. You might be a noise artist.
He doesn't have it. I don't think he makes noise music. He literally listens to it.
Yeah,
which is
he's the rarest person on earth which is someone who listens to noise music but doesn't make noise music.
Yes.
He might be the only person out there who fits that
He might be
category.
keeping an industry alive.
Right, totally.
Uh-uh.
I think the opposite is much more common, which is someone who makes noise music but doesn't listen to noise music.
I wonder about the hangout, with the, like, do you have friends? Let's get back to pedals in the way that, do you sit around and talk about, like, this is a beautiful experience for you, an hour to talk about pedal effects pedals. It's what I'm trying to do with the Dork Forest, is to make this.
I'm in this forest. I'm definitely in this forest.
Tweet, 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 tweet. And so are there people that you could talk to about the pedals beside, like, if you and Dave Hill got together?
Yeah.
Or Fred Armisen, would there be pedal talk?
There could be pedal talk, yeah. I haven't seen Dave in a really long time, but the next time I saw him, I would want to know how he got to know the people at Earthquaker Devices and
different things like that.
And I know some of their pedals because for quarantine, I was playing like improv noisy music with friends, and one of those guys was a big pedal head, and he was constantly trying out new Earthquaker Devices pedals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've tried those Earthquaker Devices.
I can't remember if I ever have because it was always on his setup,
Okay.
He was a guitarist, and those pedals work really well with guitar.
Okay.
What we would usually do is it's like a I was going to say it's like a potluck, but it's not really, because what would usually happen is we would each show up with our own pedals and just use our pedals exclusively. Whereas a potluck, everybody shows up with a dish to share.
Right.
In these sessions, we would mostly just show up with our own little bag of pedals, and then
you guys were cooking stone soup.
That's what it was. Stone soup. Yeah, exactly.
And so, where are you just going to Best Buy? Can you try a pedal? Where do you get to?
I wish Best Buy had pedals. Oh my god! If Best Buy came out with their own line of generic pedals, like
clones?
Yeah,
I would not be surprised. They're leaving money on the table.
Best Buy made a Klon Centaur clone, it would break the internet. It would break one very particular tiny subsection of the internet, the Best Buy Klon Centaur clone. I usually buy my pedals used.
Okay.
I will say that in the last 6 months, we have this podcast called Election Profit Makers, which is supposed to be about betting on political events using online prediction markets, but I did start talking about pedals on that podcast. And
sure.
Some listeners actually sent me some old pedal, like someone would be like, I haven't used this pedal in 20 years. Do you want it? I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to turn down an old pedal. And they sent me But I usually buy my pedals used. I think I've only ever bought less than 5 pedals new.
Okay.
One of them was because it's a really hard pedal to get, and the guy was making them in really limited batches, and they would immediately sell out. And I just happened to be online one night when he announced a new batch of these pedals, so I immediately bought it. That was $250. That's the most money I've ever spent on a pedal.
Right. How many pedals do you own when you say 5?
I think I have about 30.
Okay, and do they all do a variation on a theme, or are they all distinct? What's the jam?
Speaking of dorkiness,
yes.
I actually made a spreadsheet of all my pedals.
You gotta love a spreadsheet.
That's not dorky, right?
Nope.
I made an Excel spreadsheet because I wanted to keep track of them, and some of them are in storage, and some of them are, it's just like I wanted to all right, where are all my pedals and what do they do?
Right.
And I also catalog. So here are the parameters. The model name, the manufacturer, the type of pedal, that is the overall category of effect. Is it an overdrive? Is it a fuzz? Is it a delay? Is it a reverb?
Okay.
And then where I got the pedal or who gave it to me,
Okay.
And then its current location.
And little provenance, and it's
provenance in there, exactly, the pedigree.
Yep.
So that the pedals that I have the most of, the type of pedals that I seem to have the most of are delay pedals and fuzz pedals. I don't know why I have so many fuzz pedals, but I do.
Awesome.
And again, a true pedal head is listening to this and being like, this guy only has 30 pedals. Fuck this imposter. Don't talk to me. I have 250 pedals, because a lot of pedals, if you really get into pedals, you can go crazy, right?
Right. And that's true of all things, though. And but I think that the spreadsheet brings you up a notch for sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's my brother was on this program. He has a spreadsheet of Hallmark movies, Christmas movies that he's watched.
Oh, right. Okay.
So there are no boundaries.
Spreadsheet is when you know you're taking your hobby seriously. It's very
Yes,
satisfying.
you need to know. Let me look to take us to the paperwork, and so a lot of that, and then. So where do you get? I mean, if you wanted to buy them new, would you go to the Guitar Center?
You could go to Guitar Center. Excuse me. You should probably go to your local mom and pop music store, independently owned and operated, and see what they have. I think when I've bought pedals, Craigslist is a great place to buy pedals because a lot of times that's a good way to pick up just a cheap old pedal that's almost like not worth listing online. It's not worth the hassle if someone just wants to get rid of it for $30.
Like an eBay, it's not even worth it. It's just Craigslist.
The big marketplace for pedals is a website called Reverb.com, and Reverb.com actually produced the pedal movie. It's basically a propaganda movie about the glories of effects pedals because Reverb.com is a huge marketplace for buying and selling effects pedals.
Sure. And by the way, go to Reverb.com if you enjoyed this film. So they're not wrong. By the way, I am talking with David Rees, and if you get a chance, he has a podcast and he has a show that he is working with others on. One is called Election Profit Makers. That's the podcast. And Dicktown is on Hulu, and it's an animated show. And are there dick jokes?
No, Dicktown is a show I made with my friend John Hodgman, and we called it Dicktown because it is set in the fictional town of Richardsville, North Carolina, which the locals shortened to Dicktown.
Sure.
And Richardsville is kind of based on my hometown of Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Okay. Super fun.
Kind of an homage to the Piedmont region of North Carolina.
All right.
We solve mysteries for teenagers.
We got listeners in North Carolina.
Oh, really?
And
okay,
sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And so what now? You should know that we only have like about 8 or 9 more minutes to talk about pedals.
Let's go.
What else? What don't I know? What do I need to know?
About pedals?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a heavy question. I've never thought about that. What do you need to know about pedals?
Like if yep.
I think pedals are the type of technology that once you're aware of it, you'll really start to hear it in music, and you'll really start to understand how much music, especially guitar tones, are actually like quote unquote unnatural, which is to say they have been affected. They do have effects on them. It's not just a guitar running into an amplifier.
Okay.
Now, and obviously those effects might not be stomp box effects. They might not be these little pedal boxes. They might be super fancy digital effects that are used in the studio. Or these days, maybe it's effects that come with your digital audio workstation, right? Maybe you just have all these effects loaded into Ableton. I mean, frankly speaking, especially if you're recording digitally, there's no real rational reason to own a stomp box effects because computers can do all of that now.
Right?
They really can. Now, for live performance, it's different. They are very useful in the live performance setting. And it is fun to twiddle knobs and turn knobs. And the physicality of it, like playing it like an instrument, is really satisfying. But if all you care about is the end result, you don't really need pedals.
Right. Which I think is I mean, that might be a different way of making music then. You know, like if you're doing all of your stuff in, is the name of the one-man band I'm thinking Badly Drawn Boy?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know if he's a one-man band, but I've heard that name. Yeah.
Well, I know he's one guy, and he does it mostly in studio, and he layers it and he creates it himself, and the music is lovely. But I think that the effects, I don't know if the effects are with the pedals or if they are done digitally where he can get exactly what he wants. But a live experience, like what is here's a genuine question is, of all the live music you've seen, what was kind of the best live pedal use?
Well,
have you seen some cool live pedal work?
Here's something kind of interesting. So like I mentioned, a big component of noise music is pedals, and another big component of noise music are contact microphones or piezo microphones. These are microphones that are just metallic discs. Unlike regular microphones, they don't pick up on vibrations in the air. They actually only work if they are directly in contact with the vibrating surface.
Oh.
And noise artists love these things because you can tape one to a piece of sheet metal or to an iron bar and start wailing on it and then run it through a bunch of effects pedals. You get some crazy sounds.
Yep.
So I wanted to write an essay about the joys of contact microphones for the New York Times. And so as part of my research, I went to a live noise show by a sort of infamous noise artist named, I'm blanking on his name, Lucas Abela.
Okay.
Let me check that. Hold on. Can you check? Don't want to get this names wrong.
Right. So the commitment to accuracy is
Right.
rarely found here in the Dork Forest, and we appreciate it. This has been a small, tiny ad. For
Right.
How great
Okay.
that
So
is.
his stage name is Justice Yeldham.
Okay.
So he's
Yeldham.
He's Australian. He plays. His claim to fame is playing sheets of broken glass. So what he does is the day of his show, he'll walk around a crummy neighborhood until he finds a broken window.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll show up at the club with his broken piece of glass and attach a contact mic to the surface of the glass, turn on like 60 effects pedals, and then start blowing into, like, he has the glass directly on his mouth. He starts blowing on the glass, screaming into the glass, scraping the glass against his face, and it just makes these crazy,
And you've seen this?
crazy noisy sounds. And yeah, I saw him. This is very on brand for him. I saw him at a windowless basement noise show in, I guess it was in Queens. Yeah.
Okay.
And he just went off for like 45 minutes. It was really wild. And it,
Wow.
it does have that kind of aggression and that darkness and that threat of danger. There's like a risk of him, he's
Hurting his mouth.
yeah. His show ends. He's smeared in blood. There's blood all over the glass. People are screaming. It's like all this feedback. It's really wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds terrifying. But emotionally satisfying if that's what you're sort of looking
Right.
for.
I mean,
yeah.
I think a lot of people turn to noise music for catharsis because
Mhm.
it can be just really overwhelming and powerful and
Right.
abstract in a way that even the heaviest, most rocking rock music can't be.
Right.
Because it is noise. Right.
When did you first notice the pedals in music?
Well, I mean, I played in a high school band and I think we cobbled together 3 or 4 pedals back then. But really what happened was I started playing music again after a long absence, like 3 years ago. And my friend was like, let's jam in this. He had like this warehouse storage space and his friend dropped off a drum set and I brought over my guitar. And at the time, I think I only had one pedal. I had a Boss pitch shifting delay that I'd had for like 20 years. And then once we started playing music, improv music, I got into circuit bending. I started buying old Casio keyboards and modifying them. And then we invited a friend and this was the pedal guy. This is a guitarist who really liked pedals and was constantly trying out new pedals. And then I guess over the last few years, it kind of just grew kind of slowly. I was like, I want to get some funky pedals and make some weird noises,
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
you
then you
had
just go down a rabbit hole, and then it's like Friday. You're spending your Friday night like watching a 45-minute YouTube video about how to correctly use a new granular delay pedal you bought, and then you realize you've just turned into a total fucking loser.
except the joy is real. And
Yeah, the joy is real. No regrets. Oh,
yeah, don't have any regrets about your pedal love.
I don't need my friends anymore. I have my
It's,
little robot friends here.
Right, you get your little robot friends, though you might have to categorize and just sort of separate. Have you had to limit sort of the rabbit hole of the effects pedals, or you just?
Well, there's a little joke.
Because I know you're kidding, but
there's
it's real.
There's a little joke in the pedal community. This is a classic dad joke. It's like, I'm afraid I have a bad case of gear acquisition syndrome. And for, it's like any other habit. I told myself initially, I'll never own more than 20 pedals. After
Okay.
20 pedals, if one comes in, another one's got to go out. But then I put some in storage, so it's like those kind of don't count because I don't have access to them. So I
Wow.
can still load up because I'm not using those other pedals. Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. Must have been 5 or 6 years ago, my loved one, Andy Ashcraft, started looking for a car that he could not afford. So instead, he started collecting Hot Wheels again from when he was a tiny child.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
And now there are a lot of Hot Wheels in this house, and he has decided that he likes sort of the branded ones, the character cars. And they are not, it's essentially, it's not the car that Bugs Bunny would drive if Bugs Bunny drove a car. It's the car that Bugs Bunny would be if Bugs Bunny were a car.
Whoa, that's heavy.
And so there are DC and Marvel and Looney Tunes and Star Wars and all these different, and he collects different versions of them. I was like, that's his. I will never be part and parcel to this. And then I saw a very cool, I think it was the first one I liked. It was the Bugs Bunny one was the first one I liked. And so now I'm staring at 9 cars. I now have in my, this is my
this
space.
is your own collection.
This is now, I have a weird tiny collection that I was like, well, he has all these, if I wanted to, so they're doubles. It's not like he doesn't have his own Bugs Bunny car.
Right.
And then I will look for him when I'm on the road at different cars. And I bought one that I knew he didn't want, that I wanted. And that's just dumb. And that car,
smart. That's very savvy. Yeah.
David Rees, is if Fred Flintstone were a car.
Oh, yeah, totally.
This would be the
Wow.
car that Fred Flintstone
Yeah. Big dump truck.
would be.
Yeah, that captures
So
something about him.
it made me laugh. And then and then that's a perfect example because I also said that I would never buy a large one because I would only buy normal size Hot Wheels.
What happened with that?
This car was introduced into my life, and it is, if Winnie the Pooh,
Was a cement mixer.
a cement mixer that had honey on it.
Wait, are these officially licensed?
Yes, they are.
Really?
Yeah, they are.
That's such a weird idea. Such a specific idea.
So specific.
What if Winnie the Pooh was a cement truck? I never would have thought of that.
That's kind of the greatest thing about the cars is the amount of thought that goes into like like there's 5 different Han Solo cars.
Oh.
And each one of them is a different outfit of his, including the Carbonite. So there's
Oh, right. What kind of car is that?
That's just it's super flat.
Yeah, I would imagine, right?
And it looks like Carbonite. It's it's on wheels. Anyway, it's better looking than you'd think. But I've digressed away from pedals, but we were at an hour. So I just want to say, David Rees, that I've learned a lot.
Really?
And oftentimes,
Cool.
And oftentimes with musical episodes, I am left but this was technical, and I both learned something and it was musical. So I kind of feel like I've grown a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that. You were very nice to let me come on and go on and on about this about these pedals.
It's my favorite. So everyone should know that we've been talking with David Rees. He has a podcast called Election Profit Makers, and a show on Hulu called Dicktown. And thank you so much for doing the show.
Thanks for having me.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?